1, 2, 1, 2. 2. Yeah. So, presentation. Perfect. All right, so, hello everyone. We're going to talk about the maestro today. Let me get started with something that doesn't work. Clicker. One, two. I don't know. It's on, yeah.
Yes, you have to put this one.
Okay, all right. Whoop. Perfect. All right, so we've been in a music festival. Who has watched a live performance in the last week? Just raise your hands. All right. Keep your hands up if it was very exciting. All right. Why was it exciting?
A lot of people there.
A lot of people there? What was it exciting?
Because the energy.
The energy, all right. What was it exciting, Franz?
Oh, the band was awesome.
Somebody that watched the live performance that was boring? Okay, all right. Why was it boring?
Because I saw a great artist who was playing alone with his hands in the air pushing buttons.
Okay, all right. Why was it boring?
Because it was revival music, and they were too old for keeping playing live.
Okay, all right. And why was it too old? Why was it too boring? No, there was another gentleman.
It's just about the repertoire, I guess, not matching with the youth in front of them.
Okay,
That could
all right.
be a reason.
Okay, that doesn't really go well with what I was preparing. I was hoping that you will give some examples. But here's some connection, some words that have to do with boring. Something is repetitive, uninteresting, no surprising. It's still the same thing, monotonous. While, on the other hand, it's exciting, it's something creative, it's breathtaking, it's surprising, it's random. And this connects things with the main premise of my talk. It's Shannon's entropy or information entropy. When something is very predictable, when we know what's going to happen, then there is low information entropy. When something is surprising, quite random, we don't expect it, it's high information entropy. And this is the main point of the talk today. It's not actually about AI and music education. It's about how our lives can become a little bit more surprising and a little bit less predictable. So we're all texting, we're all using this amazing service called Google. We write stuff and then the answer shows up. Google and the text messages complete what we want to say, what we're thinking, right? And this is because it's low information entropy. It's predicted. The machine knows more or less what we're going to write. They have loads of data. And I'm going to show you that we can actually all do that. I want to play a game with you. So I'm going to mention a few half-finished sentences, and I want you to complete them, all right? Just shout them. So, let's start with something easier. Who wants to be a millionaire? It's a matter of life and death. Actions speak louder than words. Barking up the wrong tree. The best thing since sliced bread, yes. It's a blessing in disguise, all right. Now let's start with something a little bit more difficult. Let's play the devil's. All right. The Great Escape, Depression, Gatsby, Royal, Family, Wedding, Albert Hall, if you're from London, Climate, Change. All right, so we can kind of complete sentences. This is low information entropy. We can more or less predict what's happening. But what happens if eventually any information that can be digitized gets measured and then gets predicted? even our behavior. What happens if we end up talking with somebody, but we're not writing the text? The machine is writing the text, so we're communicating, but we're not touching the keyboard. Everything is done through the bot. Is that really human communication? Well, we're not doing anything when everything is predicted? And this is probably going to show what the use of AI in music education will be, and what the best way not to use it will be. Because it's a question of ethics. What about human creativity? Where do the humans come in when everything starts getting automated through AI? So, I'm not here to predict the future. I'm not going to tell you how the future is going to be like. Hopefully, I will give you an informative presentation, ideally thought-provoking one, but I'm not going to predict the future. We suck at it. We predict things upside down, usually. So let's get started. Who has children that are studying right now? Okay, one. All right. Who has children that don't study yet? All right. I want you to tell me what the ideal future education of your children will be. How do you expect the ideal education to be like?
Like how it is now.
All right. I love this answer. That goes well with what I've prepared.
Preparing them for life of their desires and
Preparing them for the life of for the desires or the interests, and not put them into
Yes. Okay.
categories. Yes.
That's perfect. Because when there is so much, while there is so much innovation out there in so many industries, well, education, this shouldn't be there, but education, it's still the same for the last 120 years. That is 1900. And this is the biggest issue here. That when you go from uni, A was supposed to be in the beginning of the line, and B was supposed to be somewhere outside the line. You're going to uni to go from A to B. You want to do that. You're there. You want to do that. And eventually, you're just doing all the other things, and after 4 or 6 years, you're in debt, and you're not even at point B, and everything has changed already since you got in the uni. So things are not actionable. They're not on demand. They're not personalized. Everybody is learning the same things with the same goals and the same assessments. And that's a big issue. That's a global issue. That's not just the Western world, not just the UK, not just America, not just Indonesia. It's everywhere. So my question is, what about what we actually want? What about actually our personal goals? What about what we need to do in this world? Any musician here? Has anybody told you ever, get a real job? This is the thing when somebody imposes their goals on you. Any startup founder that is more than 30 years old and not married? All right? Anybody telling you, when are you going to get married if you don't have financial security with what you do? Yeah? Well, that's me as well. So people and the society and the university, they're imposing their goals, what they want us to do on us. So what about, our children's future? What about self-actualization? What about what we want to be? And this is the big problem, which is global. So can our AI be the savior? How can AI be used? So let's first get started about how we got to AI. So there's 3 stages. First of all, mechanization. Everybody knows Ford's factory line, where the physical things got in line, in a sequence. Then we started digitizing things. So software, automation, things got even more streamlined. And now we're about prediction. We're about using data. We're about optimizing our behaviors, tracking everything. And this is artificial intelligence, where it comes in. So we're already, with education, on the digitation part. We're putting everything online, videos, they're multimedia, sometimes they're interactive with quizzes, they're nice, they're interesting, and they make recommendations as well. But this is merely the automation part. This is not artificial intelligence. This is not the future. Nothing groundbreaking, right? So Coursera, Udemy, Masterclass, they're all doing it with different angles, different niches, but it's like a class, like a normal class, but digital. Nothing out of the ordinary over here. The next part, so the numbers show that only 9% of the big companies have actually prepared themselves for the AI era. So there is a lot of potential. The last part is about tracking your own behavior. We start having wearables, things that track our heartbeats and what we're doing and how we're spending our time. So tracking our behavior. Also, adapting solutions. Just like when you have Google Maps, it shows a solution and then you can choose, oh, I want the cheapest ride, or I want the longest ride or the shortest ride. Again, adapting solutions based on your criteria. Also, optimization. Having suggestions personally on what you're doing based on data about yourself and nobody else. That's also AI. And also having data history. Like Amazon knows exactly what you bought and when, and they can make the right suggestions and predictions about what you're going to buy. This will come to us in education and in our personal life as well. That's all using, in the best way, the data we have. So, essentially, AI, the way that I see it, is just another tool about amplifying the human experience, amplifying us. So it's not going to be, in my opinion, something that will replace the human being. I'm going to talk about this a little bit later. But it's going to be about giving us superpowers. So eventually, everything is going to lead towards having a super AI mentor. You know, having, for example, your phone and talking to it and saying, I want to learn how to play the guitar. And then it's going to ask you, so, you know, by when, in 9 months, and other questions like, what's your budget? Oh, I've got $500. It's going to say, well, in 9 months, you might need more money. Or, hey, here's a free program I find for you. So the mentor will talk with you, and it's going to analyze everything you're saying, everything you've done in the past, and it's going to make the best suggestions. And this is why I predict that eventually human mentors will start decaying instead of use. We're not going to use so much the human element, but we're going to use the AI mentors, because for the AI mentor, the goal is to produce correct answers, if possible, on the right timing. The opposite is for the human being. So once this thing becomes faster and faster, once, just like Google gives you results in, you know, a split of a second, if the AI mentor can give you a personalized tuition program within a second, then you will have no need to go to the human mentor. Or will you? So that's the last part of the presentation. So imagine the personal tuition program in the ideal education system, just like Google Maps. It's going to make a suggestion based on your criteria from A to B. It's going to make things more transparent. You will know that if you want to be signed by a label, like France label, you ask the mentor, hey, how can I be signed at France label? And it's going to say, okay, according to the data we have, you need to do this and this and this. Things will be more transparent. Now, not ideally, not the best, but more transparent. And by having all these data and all this transparency, we can have cheaper education, global education, not just for the Western world. Again, now I want to point this out. Diversity and inclusivity is going to be the future of education, because technology is going to allow everyone from all over the world to have localized knowledge from a global data set of knowledge. So, what about human creativity? What about, actually, somebody mentioned yesterday or the day before, what about the things we enjoy doing? If the machine says that, okay, let's do this or let's do that, what about the flow, the creativity, the things we like doing anyway? And what about having everything streamlined for us so it's like an echo chamber? We know what to expect, like Facebook, somebody writes something controversial and then we delete them from Facebook because we don't like them. So we end up seeing only the things we want, and the extremists will meet only with the extremists, and, the Democrats only with the Democrats, etc. So what about randomness? What about unpredictability? Are we just going back to something that is of low information entropy, so predictable? Is it going to make our lives the most predictable ever? Is it a bad thing about AI? And that's the last part. We're humans, so we're going to fight back. So what is the role of humans in AI-powered education? Again, that's my take. We're going to see how things are going to turn out. Maybe AI will just cover us all, and we'll be all, slaves to AI. But we don't know. Hopefully not. hopefully, I'm going to show you, I'm going to tell you a story. So before I became a musician, then academic, and then an entrepreneur, I was in the army for 7 years. So I was 18 years old, and I started preparing, for sports exams. And my father, he's a gym teacher. He's a football coach as well. And he was preparing a group of people for these exams. And I was not that good. So we ended up running rounds, and everybody had already finished, and I was just, a few seconds before the limit. But I was running, and my father was like, come on, Tommy, do it, you can do it. So I was running fast. And then at the end, he shows me like, here, you did it, half a second before the limit. You've done it with the first try, well done. So then I got, empowered, and then the next time I was 20 seconds ahead, and then half a minute ahead, and then eventually it was quite easy for me to pass the exams. The only thing is, the first time I didn't actually make it on time. My father, knowing that I was a very sentimental person, that needs a push, he stopped the stopwatch. So he showed me that I actually passed the limit, although I hadn't. And this way, I got the boost of confidence that I needed. And this is where human beings will actually be needed. Because we care. It's empathy, it's warmth, it's connection. It's something that the machine cannot replace. This intuition we have about each other, this connectivity. So what's the use of humans in this AI-powered education era? We're going to have 4 types of human beings. First of all, whoever's going to create the code. Are there any coders here? People that program, all right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 4.5. So coders, if we work through algorithms, the person that will create the algorithms needs to think of diversity, of ethical coding, of inclusivity, of making sure that the data used is not biased, so we don't end up building the same thing for the same people just through AI. So there is a lot of aspects that a human coder needs to take into regard. We're designing this system. It's going to be a tool that we design. Then we're going to have the investors. Everybody here is looking for money one way or another. So the people backing these companies, this project, I think they need to start thinking more about the future, about the ethics, about the impact for the world, not just how to maximize the profit. And then eventually we're going to have the human mentors, the tutors. How are the tutors going to be, what's their function in a world where everything is suggested and outlined? They're going to be all about projecting creativity, about encouraging, diminishing fear, about showing how to be leaders and how to get more people excited. They're going to be there to inspire, not to show the information that everybody can do. If you repeat the same lecture over and over at your university, you can play a video. You're not there, you're not needed for that lecture. But what you're there for is about connecting people, making them feel that they can do it, or inspiring them how to connect things and be more creative. And eventually you, as a learner, as a human learner, your job is to make the decisions, to put things in action. When you have Google Maps saying that if you want to go from A to B, this is the best way, oh, you want the cheapest way, this is the cheapest way, then it's your job to actually follow that instruction or not. You can choose to just walk around and just get lost and see the people walking, and have a more unpredictable life. But it's your job to make that decision. So still the human being is in charge. And eventually, this is what I want to stress out in this keynote. We need to talk about randomness. We need to talk about surprise. Technology is just another tool. But the way we're going to use the tool is up to us. We're going to get superpowers, we're going to get more transparent, all this data will be available. It's going to be a machine that keeps learning, through your search and your journey. It's going to help somebody else's search and journey. It's going to keep learning. But it's going to be up to us to start adding, again, this surprise, this randomness in our life, this creativity. And this is the last part of the talk. Whatever can be automated, whatever can be optimized, will be optimized. That's inevitable, I think. Now, this is going to allow us to go back to what humans can do best. Be creative, inspire others, lead, explore more, Find more astonishing and surprising things about the universe. Find the next steps of what we can improve in this world. So, Marshall McLuhan said this quote, which I love. We shape the tools and our tools shape us. Now I think we can have a third line. We're going to shape again back the tools. And then they're going to shape us, and then we're going to shape back the tools. So that's going to be from a one-way conversation to a two-way conversation. AI will shape us, we're going to shape AI. So the key word here is surprise. This is the main takeaway. High information entropy, how we can make the world unpredictable in an era where things start becoming even more predictable and analyzed and expected through data. The human beings will be on the front row of creativity, of exploration. What is this? Of adding surprise. Maybe that was a part of the talk, adding a little bit of surprise and noise. So there is an example that I love. I read the book, The Most Human, about the Turing test that was in Brighton like a decade ago. And the guy that was there, he was voted as the most human compared to the chatbot that he was competing with. He tried this experiment. He took a random passage from a book, and then he started writing blah, 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 blah to match the length of that excerpt. Then he compressed both texts. So predictably, the blah, blah, blah text was compressed 3 times more than the random passage from the book. So what happened is then, when the compressor started pushing down to compress even more the excerpt from the book pushed back. And we are the book. We humans are the book. When life will push us to automate everything more and more, we're going to push back. I think it's inevitable. So eventually, we're going to go again to high information entropy. I think it's inevitable that we will add more surprise in our lives. And this is what I want us to have as a takeaway. That humans will stay creative. We'll continue exploring. And from a younger age, and for a longer time. So eventually, we're all going to be lifelong learners and explorers and shapers of the future. We at Whiise build the future right now, and if you want to talk about how we're actually doing the in and outs, we can talk after the keynote. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tommy. You have question for Tommy?
All right. I was on time. Yeah.
Okay, on time. Is there any question for Tommy? No. Yes, there.
It's live streaming and people are watching. Don't make it too difficult.
I haven't quite worked out what the question is, to be honest.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about the kind of the low entropy and the example you said about the signing up to the record. How could I get onto that record label? And then the issue would be, of course, that everybody wants to join the record label and everybody gets the same advice. Everyone does the same thing. The record label's like, I don't want any of those. And then there's this kid in the corner who's just doing his own thing. And that's what they want because they're after this like slightly more inspired piece. And that's kind of what you're talking about returning to high entropy. But it feels like that's going to be across the board, you know, like people go to the same restaurants because it's top of TripAdvisor, and then that almost has a negative effect because the restaurant experience is worse. How do you see that kind of, I don't know, I don't really know what the question is, but where do you see that kind of coming?
I mentioned at some point about adding randomness. So that's going to be a part of the design of the coder. So whoever designs any algorithm, they need to start optimizing it. So initially, I'm pretty sure we're not going to have the perfect algorithms. We will get things more predictable, just like, you know, Amazon initially they were suggesting products. It was not the best suggestion. Or Spotify, music discovery. It's not the best algorithm yet. But as people start saying that, hey, Spotify, I'm bored. You know, it's the same music all over again. Just show something random for once. So Spotify will hear, and Amazon will hear, and this optimization is going to add more randomness. I'm pretty sure it's inevitable. You know, we want to optimize everything we're creating. So not creating an echo chamber is a vital thing in our lives. I know we're going to push back, and we're going to start adding more randomness. So it has to do with the people that design these algorithms. I'm pretty sure they will start thinking about it already, but just like the first MVP, everything is shitty and then becomes better and then amazing. And then something else comes and kills it. So.
Thank you. Thank you, Tommy.